Hello everyone and welcome back from the break. First we would like to thank our sponsors. So we've been sponsored by InnoFactor, Nitor, Gofore, Knowit, Talentbase and Ethicode. And thank you for our sponsors in order to make this presentation or this online ScanAgile Online Series possible. Our next speaker was born in sunny California. She was an exchange student here at Finland and she fell love in Finland. And now she is a citizen and she has lived in Finland for 10 years. She has studied environmental studies at the Aalto University, but she has also graduated from California, from San Jose State University. She's actually a real artist. She has had several art exhibitions on her own. If you go to Instagram, you can see some of the art she has created. And so she sees the world through the creative lens. She actually stated that actually she feels that internet is a huge contributor. And that's one of her slogans. So we all, as we go in internet, we can create superb things together. Today, she is here to talk about design and sustainability. Please welcome with me very warmly our next guest speaker, Briana Romero. Welcome, Briana.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Nice
Hi.
to meet you. It's exciting to be here. This virtual conference is my first one. So now I will start to share my screen.
Yes, please do share and we will see how it goes.
Yeah.
With slide sharing.
Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
I know the audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes, it seems it's visible. So Good luck with your presentation and so excited. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I want to talk with you today about a topic that is very important, I feel, and also there is not as much research about it as other areas of sustainability. And basically, I'm going to introduce to you what is sustainability. If you don't know, I don't expect you to know, and break it down into 3 different areas. So the environmental, social, and the economical. And how does that actually have an influence on digital products, which I'm guessing that a lot of you have worked with, or you are studying, or you have been somehow involved in. And then I want to talk about the solutions that could be possible, even though there hasn't been as much research into sustainability about digital services. So let's get started. I want to bring up this because this is maybe something that many people have forgotten, because there's currently a pandemic happening right now in the whole world, affecting everyone. But basically, this happened in the autumn in California, where I'm from. I'm from Northern California, a very populated state, about 40 million people living there. And that's actually one of the reasons why people might say that in California, there's so many fires and it's global warming. One aspect is there is, of course, global warming, but us as people, as companies also, we have a contributing role into what we design has an influence on the environment, how we design it. Do we design it with the thought that there is an overgrown population of people, that there's not yards and yards of forests in the world anymore? So this is something just to think about, that what we design, we have some power over. Even if the world is changing and there is global warming and there are certain things we cannot control, we have some extent control. And also, just to be very clear about this, because I'm talking about sustainability, the point of this presentation is not to point blame, but to think, how can we create something to be resilient? And the fact is, we are in a pandemic right now that's affecting so many people in so many ways, and in some ways more socially unjust to some people around the world. And I want us to try to rethink, how are we going to get back up from this pandemic in a way, with our jobs, with our products we're going to make? How are we going to make them more resilient and more sustainable for our people and for the whole world? And definitely a pandemic is not a way of lowering the CO2 emissions because business stops, because business will come back up again, and I'm happy that it will. But the fact is we have to think, how are we going to design in a way to withstand all of the world being closed now to then being all of a sudden open abruptly. So I do have one kind of Mentimeter. If you haven't used it before, it should be very easy. And I want to ask the question, do you think sustainability benefits digital design? So I want you to go to menti.com, use this code 918469, and I will share the screen with you. This is the first time doing this also, just letting you know. And basically, this is, I want to kind of see, do you actually think that there is a benefit from using sustainability without maybe knowing so much about it on your digital services that you've worked with? So you can go ahead and enter it in, and it might take a little while. It looks like there's one person that's answered. That's great. Yeah, that's great. And any answer is correct at this point, at any point. And I think that also it's difficult to answer this because, like I said, there's not that much information about it, and not many companies who create digital services are that open about it.
Hi, Brian. I think there is a problem with the code. So in the chat, there is some discussions that the code could not be found. So can you please share one more time the code that you have?
Yes, Bill. Sorry about that. It should be 9185. It looks like it works.
9185.
918569, I believe.
69. 9569. Okay.
Yeah, it should work. And it looks like there's a lot of responses. So it looks like people are getting it. And that's great to see. There was 46 people who said yes, about 13 sort of. That's interesting. Okay, I think that probably we can continue with the presentation now so we don't take so much time, but this was very interesting to see. So I will continue now. So basically, I want to break it down for you, that try to help you to understand how actually being sustainable could help with your service. And the first thing that comes to my mind, and probably comes to many people's mind, because this is the reason why you make a business, why you have a job, is you need to have money. You need to make some business in some way. And by actually being sustainable, you are saving money. You are saving energy. You are thinking about your resources efficiently. You are thinking about how your services are powered, how they are cooled, and you're trying to think strategically about this. And in the long run, rather than maybe the short run, you win. And I'll talk about some businesses that have already done this. Essentially, this is something that is so important to think about also as a designer, if there's any UX or service designers out there too, and anyone who is creating a product, deciding what is in there, including product owners as well, or managers. You want to make it so it has a value. You don't want to make a product that you need to go back and you need to figure out what kind of value is it giving to the end user. Yes, it's a technology you want to use, you want to implement, but what kind of value is it actually giving to the person who is using it? And if it's not going to give a value, then there's no point in rushing to create it. And this is something hard to think about. And I've been in a few projects that the client had to step back and say, hey, like, we should have done actually more design, more user research. And now we are left with all this whole service that is completely finished, and it would cost so much money to go back and to redesign it, to redevelop it, to use a different cloud infrastructure for it. Why? Why did we do this? And finally, the thing that maybe not everyone is interested in, but something we should be thinking about, because sustainability with digital services, there will be a framework, I'm thinking, that's coming in the future. Now there's LEED for buildings, there's different measures, of course, that have been around for many years for products, ecological analysis, different standards by the EU and the UN and the US. But soon there will be a realization that the internet and our digital services have a huge CO2 impact. And then we need to think, how are we going to make them that they have less of an impact or that they are renewable in itself? So I'm going to share with you also some historical definitions of sustainability from the 70s, from the 80s, so they're very old. But I think a lot of people might think this is how sustainability should be done, in that you try to make a less impact, you try to make a zero impact, when this is not always possible, because technology exceeds the speed of design. It exceeds the speed of critical thinking, which is sad, but it's true. The most advanced technology comes way before trying to analyze it and think about how it can be designed in a beneficial way for the users or for the environment or for the world. So basically meeting the needs of the present without compromising the future generations is the old Brundtland definition. And the capacity of us to cycle indefinitely within a natural cycle. The thing is, like I said, technology exceeds this. So we have to think, what is the natural cycle anymore? We're living in a pandemic as well. We will no longer be in a natural cycle. We are not in a natural cycle. So we have to think, how are we going to recover from this? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the pillars of sustainability. This is an older definition from 2001, and usually it's a lot like spears. So for example, you have environmental, you have economical and social, and they are in a way silos. So if you contribute to one area, environmental, let's make a zero impact. You create a service that has the least amount of bandwidth and the least amount of energy usage. But then socially, do you make it that it makes sense for the people who are using it? So they're kind of separated, but also it's that they should be kind of interrelated, which is what brings me up to the new definition of it. But I'm going to break down how this kind of economical sustainability could be applied to digital services. So usually these pillars are applied to other areas of the world, like airline, transportation industry, or manufacturing. So really it's about removing the digital bloat or the excess. So I will talk about this again, the energy used to power servers or to power your software. Where does it go after the service is done? Does it get deleted? Is it saved? Is it uploaded? What it takes to create a massive giant dashboard, which are so popular now to make. I have also been making them too. Why are we making so many dashboards? It's very bloated sometimes. Using AI and IoT resources efficiently. IoT is also still very popular now, and the reasoning being that it can make life more efficiently for users, and it can make your services more intuitive, and actually it can be used in a beneficial way. But how are we going to use these that the energy usage and the distribution is actually economically supportive? How much does it cost to use it? And the energy equals money in this type of framework of thinking about sustainability. The more energy you're using, or the more you're using that's not wasted, or the more you are using that ends up in the waste, is a waste of money, which is why there might be something good about using cloud services, and they are considered sustainable because you're paying per use. And finally, building for the end users, what I've said before. Environmental sustainability, a virtual life cycle analysis. I will go into this a little bit later in the presentation, but basically when thinking about a life cycle analysis, the virtual version is thinking about all of the different processes that go into making this Sharpie, and thinking how that can be applied to your services and your software. And then there's zero footprint initiatives and a cradle to cradle mentality. Basically, whatever we are building and we're making, where does this Sharpie go? Is there a way this Sharpie can actually be recycled and be reinvented into another product? Wouldn't that be amazing, or does it go in the ground? This is the idea with the cradle to cradle. Using renewable energy. There's a way to power software using renewable green energy. And GHG, greenhouse gas emission lowering. So that is all of the emissions that come from the internet. And finally, one of my favorite areas, because this is the closest to me, is social sustainability. When we design something, we want it to be inclusive and accessible for everyone. We don't want to make something that is leaving off people with disabilities or different ages and different ethnicities, different parts of the world. If we're going to make a service, we want to make sure that we're designing it with inclusive and accessibility design methods. And we want to eliminate dark patterns. So dark patterns are, for example, you have probably seen this if you're on Instagram. And now they're getting better with it. Basically, when you're scrolling, now there's a notice that says, okay, you've seen enough, because they realize that Instagram, social media is addictive. It's also a way to share messages, but it can also be addictive. But dark patterns are also things, for example, if you're purchasing something and all of a sudden you see that you've gone to the shopping cart. How did you get there? Well, that designer, that website, they made it so it's so easy to click on the buy button that it's really difficult to get back. Or, for example, subscribing to websites and it's impossible to unsubscribe from them. That's an example of one. And like I said before, you want to design with research and understanding about who's using it. I also want to talk about this company. It's a very interesting research company, DeepMind. Probably you might have heard of it. They have actually used AI to reduce their Google data centers, their cooling bill, because to power all of their applications and their services, usually it takes a lot of power and a lot of energy, takes a lot of money. And basically this kind of graph down here shows when this AI machine learning is on and when it's actually off. So for example, the cooling has started up, it has started to kind of explode, and when it's on, there's more of a consistent kind of graph about how that's going. So that's very interesting, and they should do this because they're a giant. I'm happy that they're doing this. So this is an example of a big company that's trying to take some action. This is a great example of social sustainability, enabling women all over the world, especially in developing countries, to try to advance their skills. So you can go here, learn about business and computer skills, and be able to learn rather than being uneducated. And this is a great also company I found, Koulumi, and they're in Finland, of course, by the name, and they are helping students who are dealing with having the fear of going to school right now because their parent might be a teacher in the school and not knowing how to react to this if they bring the virus back home or if they catch the virus. So it's also a great learning platform to learn about all the different kinds of ways you can learn without having to actually go physically into the school. So I'd want to discuss the newest definition of sustainability, which is about regeneration. So it's about restoring and renewing with an aim to create resilient systems. So it's about creating basically for something without the fact that you're trying to make less of an impact, but you are designing, thinking about all of this social, economic, and environmental together. And it's a systems thinking approach to social and environmental and economical. So you're thinking in things of systems, and I'll show you in the next slide. Yeah, I've already said this, but basically these are kind of the tools of a designer that they should have. And I think that it would help in all of digital design to think about when you are working in a team, how you are working together, you are working with emergence. And I think Amir spoke about this in the presentation before. You're trying to work together even when you're at a physical distance. You're seeing the whole of your team and of the service rather than the part of it, the part that doesn't know about what's happening in the other country or doesn't understand. So it's about working in a relationship to one another and also seeing the connections and patterns, which is essentially also user research too. So this is something, if you would like to learn more about user research, systems thinking is a good thing to learn. Now you might think that maybe why would you have an impact on the sustainability of a service because you are maybe some of these roles. I'm sure there's some people who are not in these particular roles, but the fact is that basically there are hardly any sustainability roles in digital design. So I want to empower all of you and myself and to learn how as design or development professions or agile coaches, how we can actually instill sustainability into our products that we're making. Because we have so much power, we have knowledge about technology and design, but now we can actually kind of help to push that role of sustainability into the world, because the thing is, there is no particular role now in companies. There's not always a sustainability consultant with you, or if they're hired, they might be hired from outside. So I kind of made this in visual. This is an old picture from a school, and basically I think about the ecosystem, and sometimes I consider when I've worked with clients or in projects with many different backgrounds of people and professions, how we actually influence one another. So it's just an analogy for systems thinking. For example, we're all trying to make a service, and we have our product owners who are overseeing, and they're usually making the final decisions in some cases. Then we have our other representatives that are here giving different ideas how to work, and our designers or me, I'm trying to fight for kind of the underdog, the last person who's going to use this service on a boat, and they have to use it within a certain amount of time, and how are they going to use it? And our developers who are trying to do it, trying to implement it actually in the front and back end, and our cloud architects that are trying to find out what kind of cloud components to use and how to make it work, and our project managers that are overseeing it. And if one of these parts in our natural habitats breaks off, what happens to our whole service? Well, basically, there's a stall, and there's a thought: what is going to happen to what we're making? So that's the thing. You have a system, for example, and when one part breaks down, another part does. It's like our bodies as well. We have to take care of our teams in this way. And I think, which brings me to the next idea about the coronavirus. Now it's so devastating what is happening in the world. And I think that something we could learn from this is where we could apply systems thinking in the future if there's another pandemic or a relapse of this, and how we can realize that the world is so interconnected, way more than it was 100 years ago when the Spanish flu had happened. And we have to think, how are we going to manage it? We are only humans, so how can we strategize how to manage this systematically, and also not put a burden on people in our world who have to go to work every day, even now in this pandemic. But I wanted to kind of bring it up a little bit. That was kind of a little bit dark, but of course, probably people are thinking about this. But this is an example of a resilient design. So this is a living building. There's about 400 of them in the whole world. And this is an example of a structure that was created to actually, every part of it to be recycled or to go back into the earth. And it was made to be functional, to be enjoyable, to be living in. And I think that more of these buildings need to be made. It's very interesting that there's so little, but at least it's inspiring to know about this kind of living building. Okay, so now you're thinking I was talking about buildings, I was talking about things that might not have to do with digital sustainability. So now I'm going to try to shock you a little bit, try to get you listening to me again. So why should I care about sustainability? Well, the fact is, the internet and our digital applications actually have a huge effect on the environment, which you might not know. So the CO2 refers to carbon dioxide, which you might probably have heard again, and fossil fuels, methane, and other gases. They are all greenhouse gases. And one of the biggest contributors, besides the airline industry, manufacturing, energy production, is digital services and the internet. So it's kind of interesting to realize that what we do every day at home now has a big effect. It's not to point blame at us, but to try to realize that even being at home during this pandemic, the internet has a big effect on the environment. So a single tweet produces 200 bytes of data, as much as a human fart, as much CO2 as a human fart. If the internet were a country, it would be the 6th largest user of electricity behind China. And this is from 2011. So this is old data I have taken. And this is a little bit more common, a little more present information. The internet uses 3% of global electricity. So it powering the internet is about the same as the entire aviation industry, emits 880 million tons of CO2 a year. And the internet produces more greenhouse gases than the airline industry. Who would have thought? 2015. So this is another quote. I don't want to bore you with all of these, but it's amazing, actually. These are real facts. So I think that as professionals and as the companies we work for, if we have our own company, let's start thinking about this. Let's start to create something good with this information. So I want to bring up now, kind of get you a little bit more positive with the solutions. What can actually be done? But there's a problem. The problem is there's no lack of governance for digital sustainability, but I don't believe this is going to last. There is no framework, for example, of how many digital applications can be created and to what amount of energy can be used to do them, what kind of cloud services to make. It's a free market. All the companies, all the big cloud service players, they all have advertised what they are doing in terms of sustainability very recently in the past couple years. And I know a little bit about this from working at NordCloud, but it's a free market. You have to decide for yourself. But the thing is, I don't think it's going to be a free market for very long. So what are the metrics we can use to measure the impact of services then? What are we going to do? So I have some solutions. So usually we have this lifecycle analysis that I know because I've studied sustainability, but I'll explain it very shortly. Usually it talks about, for example, I'm going to give you my coffee cup. What are the raw materials that are made to produce this coffee cup? Then it analyzes, okay, how is it manufactured? Where is it manufactured? In what way? How fast does it take? Now it's going to be packaged. And then it's going to be distributed, sold in an online store or in an Itala store or in somewhere. And it's going to be used. So I'm going to drink coffee from it. And then eventually I'm going to throw it away when I move, or I might give it to another person. I would probably give it to another person. So a life cycle analysis analyzes what is the impact of this cup. So then if you look at the virtual LCA, think about the software and assets that you have in them. So the cloud services, the images, everything that goes into the interaction, maybe the IoT, and all of the software, everything that's in it. So think about what does it take to actually power your application. And then as a designer and a developer, you have to think, how are you going to make it that it suits the user, that they don't have problems using it, that it makes sense for them. Then there's the uploading of the content. Then there's the downloading. Then there's finally the experience, the final, like, did it work? And then there's the data removal. And this can be kind of tricky because data removal, it could have a big impact. You have to maybe have some softwares to actually remove some of the data, or does it get saved somewhere? So think about how much energy that's using if all of the data is constantly saved and constantly backed up. How can we make that more efficient? So I have one other thought to you besides this virtual LCA. Involve service UX design with a sustainability mindset like I discussed, socially, environmentally, and economically in your development process at all costs. And the reason why I mentioned development, mainly I'm working closest with front-end developers and some cloud architects, but this is so interesting. A significant portion of the internet's total footprint, 40% occurs in the front end. So this is how we design it together. So basically that means I have a bigger impact than I thought, as well as developers. Now we need to get our product owners and our managers to say, hey, maybe we should rethink how we made this. Maybe we should think about how we're gonna design this service. I think this is a great quote too, by the author of this book. If you're interested, this is a good book, a bit old, but from the Upcycle, about resilient design. Human beings don't have a pollution problem, we have a design problem. So back to what I remember, back to what I discussed earlier, that we need to think about how we are making something. And if you have some thoughts about service design, I want to briefly talk about it before we finish the presentation. I hope I'm not going over too much. Service design is the process of planning, organizing people, stakeholders, technology to embrace the interaction between me as user of this computer and the services that I have on it. So it's meant to promote a sustainable relationship. And basically it asks why and how I'm going to use it, and why it would actually, why I should make something beneficial for the person who's using it. This is a bit bleak, but a little bit maybe shocking, but I want you to kind of think about personas. Usually in service design, we design with customer segments or a persona, which means a person here, their name, their profile, their fears, their pains, things about them that they do every day, and some quotes. This is kind of the dark persona in the next 50 years. So her role is a social media influencer. She has virtual meetings, posts advertisements. She's advanced at chatting. She doesn't like reading books. Her internet is too slow. She always needs to buy a new phone every year because technology doesn't last. And she fears coronavirus, terrorism, sadness. She doesn't have a physical office. Her office is everywhere. So that's actually something that could be maybe a good thing to think about it in the future. She wants to move to Mars where she feels more safe, just like the rest of her friends. She has no idea what kind of impact or how to impact the environment when it's already going in the wrong direction. So we need to think, how are we gonna design for this persona? Or how can we design that we don't have this persona, that this is not the main one in our future? And finally, service design attempts to prevent the waterfalls, which I'm sure that you've talked about in Agile design. The idea that when you're making something, you're going forward with it no matter what. It's not iterative, and it's not any kind of design process of going back and testing it out and trying. So this is the benefit of using it. And there is a war against sustainability that's kind of invisible, and there's a bias against it, that it's about green hugging and it's about saving the environment, but actually it's about saving the world and people and everything in it, and trying to design with a lasting impact. So all of these things on the left, the money and quick gains, building with the legacy system, unethical UX and AI design, they all prevent sustainable services from happening. So all the things on the right are what we really need to think about. Lasting services, ethical design. And this is more for the design-orientated people, maybe the developers and designers here. You need to fight for a design with a response to real end users. Don't listen in your team if anyone says, who cares about testing it with an end user? Say it needs to be done. If it's not done, usually there are problems in the service at the end. You could look at the entire life cycle of the service, not just part of it. You can design with minimal UX. The less pixels, the less crap on a page, the less unnecessary things is more sustainable. And question the use and value of a digital service. Now I have one positive thing. Cloud services could be sustainable. The question is what we should use from them and how we should use them determines the full extent of their sustainability. And economically, sustainability wins. By this company in Germany, the transportation company, they did a sustainability analysis and they changed their services and 700 less bandwidth used, 70% less power needed by end users' computers, 112 less servers reported by LinkedIn when they also try to alter their ways. This is interesting if you want to check it out. There is a sustainability calculator. It's in Power BI, and it analyzes the carbon emissions of IT infrastructure. So if you were to kind of convince your company or discuss this, this is a service you can try to use. I haven't had the chance to use it in any of my projects, but I'm interested in this. This could possibly open up some thoughts for you as well. And I think this is a little bit repetitive, but basically I talked about the lifecycle analysis. So it's a step-by-step approach of looking at how something is made, how it's manufactured, and how goes through the whole cycle of its life that can be applied to digital services as well. And now I do have this, you should be able to use the same code. If you go to menti.com, I want to hear from you, based on this information from this presentation, what projects have you ever worked with? Have you worked with a project, and now after learning a little bit of this, in what ways would you have made it more sustainable, environmentally or economically, or is it with how it's being used by its users? And you don't have to put the name of the company down. All your results are going to be displayed in quote bubbles. So hopefully you can go here. This should be the right code. It should be the same one. So I have it now open here. And this might be a little bit longer. And it looks like we're going over a little bit of time, but I'm hoping that this is more towards the end of the presentation. So this can also be a lead-in into our discussion. Okay, we'll have one answer, no. You must have worked on very sustainable services then, which is good. Yes, maybe I'll leave it here for a few minutes. Yeah, this is interesting. So we have one response about search engine analytics often needed from feels like waste, since it won't add value to the end users. That's very interesting. Adds more traffic. Wow, great. Great, everyone is commenting. I wonder if there's a way that I can kind of zoom in on this. Now I'm getting a lot of comments. That's great. Yes, the drive was to save money on electricity by moving to cloud. Yeah. Okay. I'm in telco industry, have been thinking how much data we really need, use more modern technology. Think about the future instead of easy, quick wins. Yeah, I think this is something to think about, forecasting and realizing how are you going to save in the long run. That's a good thing. And this about the tweet downloads. Displaying one tweet downloads more data than the full War and Peace. I see potential for optimization here. Yes, yes, there is. Great comments. Now I just go to one last slide, and I want to just sum it up with how can you make a difference. So don't create apps and services without service or UX design. Please try to involve that person in your decision making. In the content of your service. Be inclusive in your digital design. Think about how you are making it for different users to be used. Encourage the promotion of a virtual LCA. This is something really new. So I would suggest to do some research on it. It could be interesting. promote the use of cloud services over in-house data centers. I feel this is a little bit old, and I think that people have already kind of realized this. This is interesting too. IoT and AI tools can be sustainable, like I've talked about with the DeepMind company, if they're used in the right amounts and for the right purposes. And convince internally your organization how sustainability is a benefit. This is the big winner. You need to get your mid-level managers as well as your high-level CEO interested in sustainability. This is the same thing with service design. This is one of the reasons why things don't happen. You need to get buy-in internally. So you need to do some small tests with your clients and with each other to figure out how to do this. And finally, here's some books I would suggest to read if you're interested. Thank you so much for listening. And I have a list of references too, and I'll send a PDF to this presentation later. But that's the end, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Briana. I think that was a very important topic that you presented for us. We have actually 2 questions for you on the line. So
Sure.
the first one was, is there an easy way to measure some kind of sustainability index? And it might be very useful to get some quick wins and get the data to guide towards the better choices.
This is hard to answer because I feel there is no easy way. I feel that now, because when you think about a service, there are so many different factors involved in it, but I feel like the easiest way to kind of convince or kind of do an impact analysis is to think about energy usage. There's more energy research that has gone into digital services, why they are more sustainable with how the energy is used than in other areas. But I would use the effect of creating value for your services, that they're lasting, and that you need to think about the energy uses. But unfortunately, there's no simple, easy online tool now, I feel, unless someone else might know about it. I would love to know about it more. If that answers, probably not.
I feel sometimes it's making a change in the world, kind of advocating agile organizations and stuff like that. People are kind of not kind of like in war of these novel ideas, but it's oftentimes that we just don't know what to do. So the next question is basically if you are an average consumer and you would like to do something to advance this stuff, so what is the first small step that you could kind of do to enhance the sustainability in the daily life?
I think in your daily life, well, in terms of not in digital services, but just in everyday life, you could think about where you are living, what you are doing with your time, what kind of clothes you are wearing. Do you ever get anything that's secondhand? Do you always buy something new? Fixing and repairing things is something to think about too. And I think in Finland, it's super a big thing that people love to do that many times. They love to fix and repair things. And I think also our technology, if you were to look at your phone or think about your computer, instead of going to go buy another one, how you can recycle it, how you can make a use of it. I think so many times that when we buy new phones and new computers, they're actually built not to last, which is the sad fact. But we have to think of how we can share them, how we can recycle them and use them together. But I really think that the one benefit, I feel this is such a conflicted question, because as a consumer, me, one person in the whole world, I feel I make, some people might disagree, I make less of a difference than if I'm working in a big company that I can try to get buy-in from others to try to develop and create their services to be more sustainable. Like, for example, in manufacturing or in another industry, go ahead and do it if you feel confident in your job to do that. Because I feel like our big giant companies, they're bigger contributor than one person.
Yeah. I just thought that when you were talking about those laptops and recycling laptops and computers, I just recently read that now that, with this homeschooling thing, well, it's not happening anymore, but when it was happening, then there was a kind of this program where you could kind of donate your old laptops and computers for these pupils who didn't have any laptops or computers. So if you have some laying around at your home, maybe you want to Google that up. There is one last question. We are a little bit over time, but what do you think is the concept of the social entrepreneurship related to sustainability?
I'm sorry, social entrepreneurship?
Social entrepreneurship related to sustainability. Is that,
so
are those, yeah.
So do you mean, I think this person might be asking about, for example, having companies locally and being able to make a business locally and then being a consumer of the entrepreneurs in your own country, if or in your own locality. I think that that's something I forgot to mention, that actually social sustainability is thinking about your own, for example, trying to be local with what you consume and what you do, for example, helping Finnish businesses right now through the virus too, and purchasing from them rather than purchasing from Amazon so far away. I think this is something also we can think about. Yeah, I saw the comment. The social enterprise is usually a bit different concept. Yeah, I have to say maybe I'm not so educated on this this so much, but yeah.
Yeah. Once again, Briana, thank you for your excellent presentation. And kind of my generation has been often kind of blamed on not working for the better environment and just doing what our parents told us to do. And I think part of it has been kind of lack of not knowing what to do and how to do it. So I think it's very important to educate people on the different mechanisms that we can do. So once again, thank you for your presentation, and here, and people can go and talk with you during the breaks. Yeah, so you will be circulating at the tables. So thank you. And for next, we would like to thank our sponsors again. And the next, we have a sponsor speak. So TalentBase, we have kind of the speak from TalentBase. And I would like to welcome Vesa Purho from TalentBase to give their greetings for the ScanAgile Online Conference today. So Vesa Purho, please.
So hello, everybody. My name is Vesa Purho, and I come from TalentBase. And we are very happy to be sponsoring the event this year. And just a few words from us. So as the video showed, we are a consultancy company in Finland. We mainly deal with data and analytics, digital experience, and also lean transformation. We are a small Finnish company founded in 2007. We are 58 about, but we have very happy clients, as you can see. We have a high NPS score, and clients are happy to work with us and continue working with us. And although we are a small company, we are working with big customers, as you can see from the customer list. So if we take about the 20 biggest organizations in Finland, we have been working around 13 of them, we counted once. So small company, big customers. And our lean transformation service area, what we provide is kind of a helping companies to go in agile transformation. And then we have the portfolio management, so establishing the portfolio flows and practices and helping with the tools as well, how to reach your vision and strategy. Then we can provide experts for agile roles, Scrum Masters, product owners, Epic owners, agile coaches, and so on. Then we do have a training offering. We offer general agile trainings, agile principles, Scrum, Kanban, and then we also are a safe house, so we can provide safe trainings, certification trainings, and then we can also deliver tailored trainings in agile area and also in the data and digital services area. And then we also offer executive coaching top management, how to lead agile organization, how to lead the transformation. So that is kind of in short what we are doing, and we do believe that the change is in the people, so not on the methods or on the tools, but the people are core to the change, and we need to go through the change with the help of the people, coaching, helping the people to change their habits. And we mainly work in Finland, but we do also have an office in Sweden. And so that's kind of what we are doing. And then in the next break, we have two sponsor tables in the first floor and the second floor. And in the first floor, you can go and chat and share your experiences as well with Mikko Lukkarinen about PI planning done remotely. So we can share our experiences, what happened when we did with one client a PI planning remotely. And then you can share your tips and experiences as well. That's on the first floor talent-based table. And then on the second floor talent-based table, we have Vesa Kangasperko discussing about the topic about what to consider when driving agile transformation in this COVID-19 times. So what can you kind of do to effectively drive change even though when everybody's working remotely? So that's all from us, and I will be sitting somewhere in the third floor. So if you want to talk with me about some things and how Talent-Based can help you or other topics, you can catch me one of the third floor tables. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vesa. So next we are going to have a break, and the break will be for 20 minutes. So Mika, can you please share the slide, and please go to the tables and talk with your peers and talk with our nice speakers. So we love to talk with you. Or if you want to have just a silent break, you're welcome to do so as well. Thank you. After the break, we will hear from Priya, storytelling and agile transformation.